last week's episode of Pokémon Generations, Team Magma had just awakened the raw power of Primal Groudon, and it only makes sense that in this week's episode we would follow Team Aqua as they awaken the Primal Kyogre. That's right, this week's episode of Pokémon Generations, from an animation standpoint, was my favorite episode of the entire series. Not only is Team Aqua just so over the top and fun, in particular the character of Archie, but Primal Kyogre in this episode was just awesome. I loved the way that they animated this thing. You know, in the back of my mind when I'm playing these video games or when I'm seeing the cutscenes from them, I never imagine a Pokemon of that size moving at that speed. When you see Kyogre in this episode escape from that underground cavern, unlocking its primal abilities, and just plowing through the ocean and flying through the sky, it's just mesmerizing. It's awesome. It kind of looks like a fighter plane as it's sort of like doing all these barrel rolls, crashing into the ocean, causing all of these massive storms and whirlpools, not to mention the scene where it charges against Archie and his ship. That scene was great, especially the forced perspective from the very front of the ship as it flies right over them, causing this massive wave that they end up riding on top of right before the Kyogre gets right in their face, about to blast them at point-blank range. Some other visuals that I really loved in this episode were certainly a lot of the underwater Pokemon scenes, because it gave us an excuse to see a lot of Pokemon in the wild, something that Pokemon Generations hasn't done quite yet. But then again, the ocean is just brimming with sea life, and there are a lot of water Pokemon, especially in the Hoenn region. I think one of the biggest jokes about those games is that a lot of people get pissed off that you have to do so much surfing. And it makes sense. There are water Pokemon all over the place, so you're going to see a lot of your favorites in this episode in their natural habitat, just doing their thing. And of course, when Kyogre breaks out and starts causing all of this destruction, you get to see that it's not just affecting everything in the world, but the actual ocean itself. All of the water Pokemon are completely freaking out. There's a scene where this Magikarp is fighting against the current when suddenly this like Spheal comes up and just smacks it right into the face. It's funny and it's also scary all at the same time, because Kyogre itself is basically this giant force of nature, which is just destroying everything with its raw power. Archie was hoping that this was going to end up being very beneficial to Team Aqua, wipe the slate clean, start over, but Kyogre is just there for pure and raw destruction. The next episode is where things are probably going to get insane. If they're going to continue to do this whole, like, Ruby Sapphire storyline thing representing like all of the legendaries, we're probably going to get Rayquaza in the next episode, which means we're going to be heading to the Sky Pillar, and we might even get to see all three of these beasts come together and have one big epic battle. Hell, throw Deoxys in there too. It would be freaking awesome. What I will say is, I loved this episode of Pokémon Generations. Like I said, I think it had the best animation, the best big action sequences, the best shots of Pokémon that we've seen, and Team Aqua just exudes so much ridiculous personality, especially the character of Archie, who, in the original Ruby and Sapphire games, he just looked like a random pirate dude. Really nothing all that crazy or flashy about him. But his redesign in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire just makes him so over the top, and they managed to capture all of that energy and bring it forth tenfold in this anime adaptation. This episode rocked right here. It also made me appreciate Kyogre. It also made me realize just how destructive that thing is when it's actually flying around. It's so much more maneuverable than Groudon is. I never even imagined it really flying around in the air. The fact that it could actually do that and do these like really swift barrel rolls and create so much destruction and massive waves and tsunamis is just a sight to behold. This week's episode was great if you want to see the true, raw power of a legendary Pokemon, and that's what made this one so great. I loved this episode, zero complaints about it. Archie was awesome, Kyogre was great, Shelly was super sexy, and this was a great episode of Pokémon Generations. I'm giving this one right here a 5 out of 5. Check it out, Pokemon fans. If you have not watched this episode, I will put a link for this episode of Pokémon Generations in the description box below so that all of you guys can check it out. If any of you did watch it, make sure to tell me what you guys thought about it in the comments section below. If you had any favorite scenes, if you actually did not like this episode, did you ever have an opportunity to play Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire? What stories do you want to see next in Pokemon Generations? Make sure to tell me in the comments section below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave me a comment or two, and how about smashing that like button? Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby!